Okay, so this is a brief tutorial on the lumbar plexus. So we're going to look at the basic structure and the location of the lumbar plexus and a few ways to remember some of the nerves and the basic organization. So the lumbar plexus is formed from the anterior rami of L1 to L4, and it also receives some fibers from thoracic nerve T12. So there are 6 main nerves which come off the lumbar plexus, and they can be remembered using the following mnemonic. So it's I twice get laid on Fridays. So the nerves that you need to remember are the iliohypogastric nerve, the ilioinguinal, the genitofemoral, the lateral femoral cutaneous, the obturator nerve, and the femoral nerve. So the mnemonic is I twice get laid on Fridays. So the lumbar plexus actually forms inside the psoas major muscle, and the branches of the lumbar plexus can be thought of in relation to the psoas major muscle and where they emerge in relation to this muscle. So I've just switched over to this model here, and what we're looking at is an anterior view with the muscles of the anterior abdominal wall dissected away. So we've got the psoas muscle sitting here, the psoas major muscle, and we've got the 6 branches of the lumbar plexus sitting around this muscle. So what you need to remember is that all the muscles except the genitofemoral and the obturator nerve emerge from the lateral aspect of the psoas major muscle. So emerging anteriorly from the psoas major muscle, we've got the genitofemoral nerve coming here, which I'm just drawing quite crudely on, and then it splits into the genital and femoral branches. And medial to the psoas major muscle, we've got the obturator nerve. So I'm just kind of drawing this on in yellow, but it's already sitting there. So the other 4 nerves emerge lateral to the psoas major muscle. So we've got the iliohypogastric muscle, we've got the ilioinguinal nerve, the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve, and we've got the femoral nerve. So now that you know the names of the 6 main branches of the lumbar plexus, and you have an idea of the relationship of these nerves to the psoas major muscle, we can now take a look at which roots these nerves emerge from. So this diagram here might look a little bit complicated, but there's a nice little way of remembering which roots the nerves come from. So the mnemonic is 2 from 1, 2 from 2, 2 from 3. So I'll go on to explain what this means. So it essentially means that there's 2 nerves that come from 1 root, there's 2 nerves which come from 2 roots, and there's 2 nerves which come from 3 roots. So let's start from the top and work our way down. So remember our mnemonic, I twice get laid on Fridays. So the first 2 nerves are the eye nerves. So you've got the iliohypogastric and the ilioinguinal nerves. So the iliohypogastric nerve is superior and the ilioinguinal nerve is inferior. So the way I remember that is that iliohypogastric has the word gastric in. Gastric refers to stomach, so the stomach is actually higher than the inguinal region, so the ilioinguinal nerve is inferior. So these 2 nerves come from 1 root, so they come from the L1 root. So that's 2 from 1. So next in the mnemonic is 2 from 2. So we've got 2 nerves coming from 2 roots. So if we go back to the first mnemonic, we know that after the iliohypogastric and the ilioinguinal nerve, we've now got the genitofemoral nerve. So this nerve here is the genitofemoral nerve, and it comes from the anterior rami of L1 and L2. So the next nerve in the mnemonic is the lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh, or the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve. So this nerve comes from the anterior rami of L2 and L3. So now you understand the second part of that mnemonic. So we've got 2 nerves coming from 2 roots. So we're combining all our mnemonics together here and our little bits of knowledge of the lumbar plexus to work out the organisation of the branches and origins of the nerves that come from the lumbar plexus. So the first bit of knowledge is that the lumbar plexus is formed from the anterior rami of L1 to L4. Our second bit of knowledge is the mnemonic. So I twice get laid on Fridays. So this gives us the order of the nerves, the 6 branches that come from the lumbar plexus. And our third bit of knowledge is the mnemonic 2 from 1, 2 from 2, 2 from 3. So we know our first 2 nerves are the iliohypogastric and the ilioinguinal nerves, and we know that 2 nerves come from 1 root, so these are the first 2 nerves, so they come from the first root of the lumbar plexus, so L1. We know that there are 2 nerves which come from 2 roots, so we look to the mnemonic and we look at our next 2 nerves. So we've got the genitofemoral nerve and we've got the lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh. So the genitofemoral nerve comes first in the mnemonic, so it takes the first 2 nerve roots, so it comes from L1 and L2. The lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh is the next nerve in the mnemonic, so this comes from the next 2 roots, so it comes from the L2 and L3 roots. So now we are left with 2 nerves from 3 roots. So by process of elimination, we know that these must be the obturator nerve and the femoral nerve. So these are the principal nerves of the lumbar plexus. They innervate the largest muscle groups. So the obturator nerve innervates the muscles of the medial compartment of the thigh, and the femoral nerve innervates the muscles of the anterior compartment of the thigh. So these are the principal large nerves, so they originate from the largest number of nerve roots, so 3 nerve roots. So you can see the obturator nerve here, and it originates from L2, L3 and L4. And as you can see, this is the femoral nerve here, and it also originates from the same roots, so it originates from L2, L3 and L4. So just to reiterate, we've got 2 nerves from 1 root. We've got the iliohypogastric and the ilioinguinal nerve coming from the first lumbar nerve. We've got 2 nerves coming from 2 roots, so we've got the genitofemoral nerve coming from the first lumbar nerve and the second lumbar nerve, and we've got the lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh coming from the second lumbar nerve and the third lumbar nerve. And then we've got 2 nerves coming from 3 roots, so we've got the femoral nerve coming from the second, third and fourth lumbar nerves, and we've got the obturator nerve coming from the same roots, so L2, L3 and L4. So just to point a few things out on this diagram which you might have noticed, up here we've got the subcostal nerve, which is a branch from the last thoracic nerve, so the 12th thoracic nerve, and this nerve contributes to the lumbar plexus, as you can see here. Over here we've got these 2 branches coming off the 3rd and 4th lumbar nerves. So this is the accessory obturator nerve, and it's not always present. And then over here we've got 2 little nerves coming off the femoral nerve. So these are muscular branches to the psoas muscle and the iliacus muscle.